Good morning, YouTube. Sat Nam. Namaste. Hope you're having a blessed morning. I'm just going to give you a couple of minutes to arrive live with me today. And once I can see you typing in chat and see that everything is working, we will begin our live question and answer for spiritual development. Hi, Beth. Hi, Juan. You're here. Awesome. It's working. So for the next 30 to 45 minutes or so, what I would like to do is just connect to you on various topics. I'm particularly interested today in talking about how you feel about setting boundaries in your life. And how do you feel about saying no and meaning it? How do you feel about boundaries for purposes of your own growth, your own self-love, your own healing process? How do you feel? What I've observed is that it relates to bringing up shame, in the collective. Shame is one of the biggest problems in the human conscious collective that warrants healing right now, that warrants our attention and awareness, and doesn't really take integration. It takes awareness that it's there and a simple decision to choose again. This is what Yeshua often tells me: when you're not enjoying how you're feeling, how you are experiencing your life, it's a simple decision to be aware of what you're feeling and aware of how to choose a different emotional expression, a different frequency, a different bandwidth, upon which you can operate and express. So I read a book a long time ago, and the book is just as relevant today for those of you who really want more information on boundaries. One really good source is a book that was written a good 20 years ago or so by Shakti Gawain. I'm going to type out her name here in chat so that you can see it. One of you said, I'm really bad at that. And I'm going to type out the book title as well. This is a book that really changed my life a long time ago. Compassion is one of my deeper purposes. And I, at that time, was still misinterpreting compassion to mean sacrifice, particularly self-sacrifice, to the extent of allowing myself to be lost in other individuals and meeting their needs and giving them the attention that they need, giving them the closure that they need, all the different things and ways that people ask for our presence when our own inner child needs it more. Because if you can't be full, if your cup is half empty, you can't keep pouring it with a big gold pitcher into other people's cups. If you have nothing to give, you have to fill up. So it's just something that I noticed. But going back to the book, the title is Living in the Light by Shakti Gawain. That's Shakti, Shakti, last name Gawain. And what my inner guidance told me to do, I think I was in my 20s when I read this book. I'm in my early 40s now, so it's been a while that this book's been on the scene. I think she was more popular for her second book, which was called Creative Visualization. But I really loved this one because it was really relevant at the time. And I went straight to chapter 2 because that's what my inner guidance wanted me to do. It said, just go straight to chapter 2. And the title was Saying No. And I went, oh boy, this is going to be an interesting experience for sure. So how are you feeling about it? Do you find that it's necessary? Oneness teachers out there, I really want to hear from you because this is a major misperception in spiritual communities around the world that oneness means talking to people, putting yourself out there to people, connecting to people at all times. If someone needs something, you give it. If someone wants something, a conversation or time with you, you display it and you interact. When there are times when you need to cut off people in your life and cut off circumstances, jobs, situations in your life, either temporary or permanently. And if you don't get that space, If you don't set that boundary, your interactions with those circumstances and people become outright torture to the extent where you hold up your hands and say, I cannot do this right now, right? If you guys there with me on that, I know that if I'm feeling it, other people are feeling it in the collective as well. Yes, it is very difficult to do, you know, especially when shame is involved, when projections are involved, when triangulation situations are involved, when narcissism, borderline personality disorder displays are involved, when you have situations where people are name calling, gossiping, slandering, basically draining all of your energy, and you don't even know if what they're creating, there might be some truths, it might be partial truths you don't exactly know, and you just kind of sit back and go, okay, what part of me is attacking myself? So if you are experiencing, psychic attack, if you're experiencing emotional attack from friends, if you're experiencing gossip, slander, libel, if you're experiencing betrayal, if you're experiencing these things coming up, if you're in the position of the one um, who feels that victim of that, it might be really good to go within yourself and just say, what boundaries haven't I honored for myself and possibly for others? You know, um, it's really important right now that people go within, that they get that private, sacred time with God within to be able to kind of have a reset. Humanity's on a reset right now. You know, you're on a reset, and it's okay to say no and to say no with love and to mean it. Um, what I notice is that when people are attempting to display boundaries and attempting to say no, there's a lot of feedback. There's a lot of pushback. There's a lot of, well, you can't because you hurt me, or you can't because you did that. You can't cut me off because I need closure. You can't cut me off because I'm in pain. You can't cut me off because. So this is like having an energy parasite in your life, sucking and sucking and sucking until you have no more. So not setting boundaries not only does an injustice to you and your inner child while you are trying to connect to yourself. If you can't connect to yourself, you cannot forgive or be forgiven. You cannot display compassion if you do not display compassion for yourself. So it's not turning your backs on those in need. It's turning your face towards your own heart first. If you put your attention out towards someone else before you put that loving attention and forgiveness and connection to yourself, you will not be able to connect to them later, much less right now. So it's something that those in your life, who are saying, I need you, I need you, I need you. You need to give me closure. You need to give me answers. You need to give me peace. You need to give me, explain yourself, square up with me, do this, do that, connect with me, heal something with me, be authentic with me. All these things that are going around the authenticity movement and the spiritual community. Well, I find that my authenticity is sacred. So I'm going to relabel that for myself, the sacred privacy movement, because my private life is sacred. And so is yours. Your emotions are sacred, and you should be really discerning on with whom you share your private information, your deepest nature in your heart. Correct? So be mindful of that and use the God mind in yourself to really connect. So many people in oneness teachings right now are saying that's not oneness if you can't give everybody everything right here, right now, and not cut people off. Okay, well, you're not being at one with yourself if you don't step back and love yourself first. You will have nothing to connect to. So boundaries should be honored. I wrote an immense blog about it. You can Google it. It's called Boundaries, the Final Frontier. And it gives a 5-step process on how to set boundaries in your life. However, what you need to know, and I do these processes, but when you're dealing with people with extreme personality disorders, untreated mental illness, some degree of any degree of Asperger's, autism, lack of connection to the social component of how to socially reciprocate, what's loving and what's not to say, what's loving and what's not to share when they don't have that discernment. You can't keep going no matter how many times you set boundaries. The only true boundary is to stop talking to them, either temporarily or permanently, and to let them know why, to let them know you love them, but you need to take care of yourself. So, in that 5-step process that was channeled from Yeshua through me a few years ago, I started really observing the need for boundaries in my life. And I want you to go look at it. It's 5 simple steps. You start with love, I love you, or thank you, and you give a compliment or an expression of thanks for their connection and something they've done. The step number 2 is to say, however, and then insert your boundary. This is, I really appreciate it if you would consider. You don't say, however, I need you to do this, I need you to do that because that's what I need. That's actually selfish. But you can say, I would appreciate it if you would consider my viewpoint for a moment. Here's where I'm coming from, and this is the boundary that I require right now for these reasons. So this requires elaboration. And then step number 3 is to say, would you please consider this and get back to me? Step number 4 is thank you for that. I really appreciate you, even if you disagree with what I'm saying, to just take some time to consider it and get back to me. Let me know how you feel at some point. Or let me know how you feel and talk to me about it right now. If they can't talk to you about it right now, they can get back to you at some point. But it's just an open-ended situation to say, can you please consider and let me know how you feel? If not now, perhaps later. And then finally, step number 5 is thank you, I love you. You have to keep thanking people and saying how you love them. It's really, really important. But let me kind of qualify that for a moment and tell you that if you're dealing with narcissists, sociopaths, people with strong displays of borderline personality, they kind of will not really hear that, no matter how many times I've said that very recently, so many times in my life with people. And they're like, you didn't give me closure way back when. And I'm like, actually, I remember the day that I did. And here's what I said. And I also said, thank you. And I appreciate you. However, here's my boundary. And here's why this happened. And here's how I feel about it. And here's the closure. And then I had to explain myself because that person did not have the mental capacity to remember what I had done to ask for a boundary a long time ago. So when you're dealing with sociopaths, psychopaths, borderline personality displays, narcissism, anything like that. When you're dealing with these strong personality disorders, again, some degree of Asperger's, where there's kind of not any particular degree of knowing how to emotionally hear people and to feel what they mean, then that person is not going to hear you to begin with. And they're going to keep coming back saying, you need to connect to me. You need to give me more time. You need to give me more explanation, elaboration, explain yourself, give me closure. There are various little things that people with sociopathic display in particular will say to you to pull you back in. And I call this the hook. Okay, there's a lot of manipulation going on in that. You say you need space and they keep talking. You say you need space, but they say, oh, I need closure first, and you need to explain this first. Those are hooks. That's going to happen. So you can follow this process to a T, but if you're still finding that those things are happening, please just cut them off. There's no shame in honoring yourself and saying, I see that you're not hearing me right now, and I need to take this time for myself. And you're not giving it to me, so I'm going to take it starting now. And it may be temporary, it may be permanent, or maybe you don't know. Maybe you just don't know, and that's okay as well, right? I'm going to start looking at your questions now. Do you believe it's needed to do any manifesting when it comes to wanting a relationship? I feel like we can call it in, but it will present itself in divine timing. I'm somewhere in the middle. I really think it's important to put your intentions out to the universe because it's only a phone call away. And we all have the capacity to manifest appropriately and quickly. However, Sometimes we don't for unique reasons. And when you put, my process letter to the universe, when you put that out there and something happens right away, that's great. But when it doesn't, um, to go out there and rush it and seek it and put your entire put an attachment towards that, you become attached to that and only that, as if the ego is in control, and the ego is saying, this is what I want and nothing else. At the end of a lot of my manifestation letters, I do a process called Letter to the Universe. And at the end of them, I will say this or something better. I say that as a way to really show reverence to the sacred nature of the divine within me, in case my ego is trying to step in my letter and know better than God within me. you know? So it's somewhere in the middle, to answer your question, Gianluca. Okay. Can you talk about how to communicate boundaries on a spiritual level? In my situation, I can't really talk to the person in person because they will get angry. In that case, it might be you who needs to honor their boundary. If they get angry, that anger is probably not safe for you. In which case you can write a letter, you can shoot over an email, you can send a one-time email, one-time text, get it all out, one-time letter. Anything else is emotional attack, possibly the potentiality of emotional attack from you. So keep in mind that if a person is getting angry, they're not safe to set a boundary with. So do it from afar. If that's not working, write a letter to the universe about the situation. And this may not feel like a nice letter. It may be like, you know what? I'm angry because, I'm hurt because, and I need to set a boundary because. And what you need to do is get real shamanic on this. Burn that letter up under the light of a full moon. The full moon represents release of things. Burn that letter. It's very shamanic to work with fire in that situation where karma is so burning emotionally that you don't want it in your life anymore. So put a symbol to it and burn the letter in the fire. Okay, that's one way to communicate energetically with the universe. James Hoyt, it's not that I don't have a comment to what you're saying, but I think there's like 400 people right now. So I don't know what you said. I just heard no comment, Pamela, ? And I don't even know what you said. Comments go like this: boom, 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 boom. So I just have a tendency to pick whatever's there. Otherwise, I'm doing infinite scrolling and not being able to focus on the information that I wish to share with you. Karen, after you set boundaries with a person that has narcissistic tendencies, how do you help them? You do not. The end on that. Set boundaries and walk away. How can you help them with their fear? You can't. Narcissists come from a situation that's from lack of care, generally from a mother. It's from neglect, generally from a mother wound. It can sometimes be from the father wound, but generally speaking, I've noticed it's from the mother wounds. Lack of attention, and they have created unhealthy, almost insane ways to get attention and making you feel sorry for them. And if that doesn't work, they go deeper, like by trying to gossip or slander or ruin your reputation. There's like different things that they will do that you cannot be afraid of. Okay. I've had narcissists try to ruin my entire career, try to ruin my relationship with other people. It just happens that way. And you have to understand that that is the nature of how they work. And there's nothing that you can do about it except send them love and go into the forgiveness process yourself. Send love, send love, send love. You are loved. They are loved. Forgive them. And forgiveness and love can happen from afar. You are not the body. So why are you so concerned about pushing their body over here and pushing their words over here? You are them, they are you. Send that love with a physical boundary. That's not separation, that's honoring you. Okay? On the game we're playing, James Hoy, if you're asking me to comment on the game we're playing, that's your question. I don't really enjoy games, and I don't enjoy when people play games with me. I don't enjoy manipulation games. And that's a lot of the games that narcissists play, kind of like, oh, I forgive you and I see what has happened. And I'm like, great, thank you. I forgive you too. Let's move on. I need a little space for a while. And the moment you say you need a little space, they hate you again. So insofar as those kind of games, I don't play them. I cut them off. And then I get shamed and blamed and persecuted for that. But regardless, I no longer feel shame about honoring myself. So if that's the game you're talking about, I don't play along with narcissist games. I cut that off. You have to be willing, confident, and empowered enough to know your own power and to cut that off. Audra, we are talking about boundaries. Yeah. So, James, if you have another comment on your question, if you wish to explain or expand upon what game you're talking about, I'd be happy to comment. That I don't know what you're talking about right now exactly. The Matrix? What do you want to know? Like that's a statement, but I don't want to comment on it. I want you to ask a question, and I want you to ask me what you want to know about it, because I have very little interest in Matrix games. Very little interest. Primarily, the way that I operate in the Matrix personally as a teacher on this planet, as a channel, is that I operate by looking and observing the universal law of reflection. I observe what's before me, and then I decide how I want to play. So I think that the Matrix can be powerful and loving and incredible. It can be just as disempowering and persecuting and shaming and blaming and painful. It's all about your perception and how you are choosing to view that. So if you don't like the Matrix, you need to choose again. And what I mean by that, that is a Course in Miracles statement, always channeled through to me by Yeshua, where you get to choose how you feel and how you respond to a person or situation. And only you and yourself can make that choice. And that is going to show you immediately how your life is going to be. That's going to be an immediate manifestation, how you feel about what's happening in the Matrix, and then how you choose to create meaning of that feeling and of that circumstance is going to really manifest your entire life creatively, right? So you are a player in the Matrix. So if you choose something, if you see something that you don't like, choose how you're going to perceive it. And here's a good way to do that. It's something that Yeshua often says to me that's a really good affirmation that helps me with this. When I see something that I don't like about the Matrix, I will say to myself, I do not know what this situation is for. I do not know why. I do not know how. I know nothing of this situation. I don't know what this is or why it's happening. Therefore, I cannot judge it. The only thing I can do is forgive it if I feel bad about it. But I cannot judge it to be good or bad. The only thing I can say is I don't know. And that nothingness, the I don't know, is so freeing. It's like dropping a massive weight of like an albatross around your neck, just squeezing. Literary buffs out there, you may know what I mean. Thank you for that tip. Um, so the albatross in a lot of the works of some of the greatest literary artists on earth, Edgar Allan Poe, in particular, Emily Dickinson, I think makes mention. Some of the greatest poets and writers on earth talk about the albatross. The albatross is a metaphorical meaning for a bird of death. And when you're a sailor and you're on the sea and you see an albatross, that's warning that you're about to die or something bad. It's like an omen. So they use that albatross around the neck term in literature. It's like a squeezing around the neck. They say, get that albatross out from around your neck. So that's what I mean when I say that. Judgment is like that. You don't need the judgment. You don't need to create meaning, either good or bad, because if you're creating good meaning, then you're saying, yeah, this is what I want. This is what I need, as if God within you hasn't already decided that. So what you do is you simply nod, love, and be thankful. Now acknowledge, nod to the universe, love, and then show gratitude and appreciation. Nod, love, and be thankful. Nod, love, and be thankful. That's the only thing that you can do towards any matrix situation. And if you can't do that, forgive it and show compassion. Compassion is the greatest technology that is in existence for you right now for human conscious collective healing. So that's my advice on that. It's called neutrality. No, not for me at least. Some people talk about that. James Hoy said it's called neutrality. There is a little bit of a difference there because I notice in some of the Buddhist teachings that they teach non-attachment. And when I talk to Krishna as a channel, what he says to me is that you cannot be involved successfully, compassionately, with love in this world without, you cannot be um, in a powerful, successful, loving, powerfully manifesting situation without involvement. So detachment is not helpful in this. Love, respect, reverence, at all times being involved with feeling and observing how you're feeling about the reflection standing before you in the universe, in people and in circumstances, because those circumstances are created for you. They're created for you to take responsibility for them. And you may cringe when I say that. I take responsibility for things. And how I do that, what does this responsibility mean? It means the ability to respond as God. That is all. So when you take responsibility, if you're God, you can take responsibility for everything. You either believe that God is you or you don't. And that's the foundation of the problem, is that you don't believe that you are empowered gods and goddesses. So start there. And if you can't see someone with love, send forgiveness and be in compassion. Try to understand why a person would feel that way and do what they do and say what they say. It's really difficult in the midst of pain and suffering to do that. Yeah. Julie, I'm not sure what you mean by that. She said no detachment because I'm hiding from relationships. Um, well, you'd probably have to elaborate on that. What are my thoughts on Andara crystals? That is the second time I've had that question in a couple of days. Um, there are a lot of fake ones. That's my thought on Andara crystals. There are a lot of Andara crystals that are just man-made glass. I know that they are coming from natural, probably volcanic circumstances on Gaia, and they're created in this way. They are powerful because of intense compacted energy in one crystal, created by a force of fire, the element of fire. I think that you need to find a certified dealer of them or someone that you trust to get them. Yeah. So, but other than that, crystals are tools. I think about Andara crystals the same way I would any other crystal. If it works for you, use it. You know, I love crystals. I have tons of them. I'm not attached to them either. I quickly give them away, and as soon as I give them away, someone's giving me another. I think they're powerful tools. All crystals are powerful tools. Yeah. So, how am I today? Um, hmm. Well, first of all, I can't answer that question very well because someone is in, I'm distracted, is how I am, because someone is in the other room and I didn't shut my door. I didn't think anyone was here in the office today, and they are. So, what I'm going to do is go shut my door. Be right back. Okay. How am I today? Going back to your question, I am in a place of compassion, forgiveness. Um, I am observing shame in the collective. I'm observing thoughts of shame run past me. A lot of people think, can you still feel these negative frequencies? Kind of, if you choose it. So when someone who is spiritually awake or has gone through an enlightenment goes through like someone else trying to shame them or make them feel guilty, which is what I'm currently going through, um, thoughts of that go by and I go, I observe that someone's trying to make me feel something that is not productive or healthy. Do I want to take that and pull that into my reality? Yes or no? So that's how I'm doing. I am making decisions to try to be a responsible person, and simultaneously understanding that shame is not relevant or helpful and I will not put up with it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm in the process of setting boundaries and in observing shame, but choosing not to pull that into my energetic field and forgiving it, forgiving those who are trying to cast shame upon me right now and not accepting it and simply choosing again. I'm also in a place of deep compassion and connection to those around me. So there's that going on. And then there's this other component that's just full of compassion and full of trust and um, attempting to understand deep trust and allowance of hard situations. Yeah. How do you heal from the death of a close one? I need you to look deeper at what meaning you have placed on the word death, because death isn't real. Grief and the way that we feel thereby, when grief becomes suffering, that only happens because we have chosen to believe in loss. We have chosen to believe that someone could possibly be disconnected from us, that someone could possibly die and no longer exist and no longer be in our hearts. I'm thankful for you too, Tiba. Can you tell us why we're worthy? Yes and no. You are worthy because of grace. Grace is a gift where everyone is innocent and beautiful and divinely perfect, no matter what they do, no matter what they say. Because if you're judging yourself or another person as having done something or as good or bad or right or wrong, that's human stuff. God doesn't do that. That's ego doing that. And those are untruths. The only truths that are available in the universe are, number one, love, or number two, if you can't view something as love, it needs more love or a call to love. So that call to love for me is compassion and forgiveness. Those are the only truths. And if you think about truths, we are naturally worthy because truth is love and we are love. And anything or anyone that tells you otherwise is not within the truth. Any belief you have created from your childhood that's following you until now, that belief is not within the divine truth. So grace, that is what you need to understand, that grace is a gift. It's like opening in a package. Okay, I was going to say, do you say, oh, no, you shouldn't have, I'm not worthy, whenever people give you gifts, but I can tell that you do. So what if when someone gives you a gift, you simply say, oh my goodness, this is phenomenal. Thank you. So when you're given a gift, you say to yourself, wow, I am worthy of this gift. Thank you. And you just be, number one, the 3 steps: nod to the universe. Yes, I received this. And number 2, say thank you and be in love. Number 2 was be in love, and number 3 was say thank you. So number 1, nod to the universe when you receive a gift. The same thing goes with grace. And number 2, be in love and compassion. If you can't be in love, show compassion and forgiveness. And then number 3, be in gratitude. So I should have gotten myself some water this morning. Otherwise, I'm going to be sitting here clearing my throat if I don't go get it. Good morning to you too, Donald. Thanks for joining. Tony, probably not something I can tell you about that experience because it sounds personal between you and your higher self. But I know that when Wen circles people, she said she had an experience of Wen circling her and causing her to speak in tongues. It's probably a download of information universally. And Wen is an element that causes people to speak. So it doesn't surprise me that you spoke. Tongues, well, that's just a language that you don't know yet. And people call it what they will and try to say it's this language or that language or light language. It's just language that you don't remember yet. What advice do you have for those who try to set etheric boundaries, but they seem to not work? I need to know why you believe they aren't working. Yeah, because those people that you're trying to set boundaries with etherically are you. They are other versions of you. So if you feel like they're not working, but you're setting etheric boundaries, how are they not working? Are you perceiving a psychic attack? Are you perceiving people actually physically not honoring your boundaries when you've said don't communicate and they still do? Like, what are you perceiving that's causing you to set meaning that your boundaries aren't working? I need a little bit more information from you. Because if you're perceiving that, normally you would need to look within yourself to say, how am I dishonoring my boundaries? How am I casting blame on or projecting onto other people? So, how am I not forgiving something? Generally, if boundaries aren't working, there's some more work that needs to be done in those directions. What's my favorite song at the moment? Oh gosh, I have so many favorite songs. Um, I think Found by Amber Run currently is my favorite song. Get your water, please. Okay, I will go get my water. You guys go get your water too. And I'll be back. You want to take a 2-minute break? Sounds good. I'll see you soon. Okay, returning. What about psychic attack? Is that a lack of boundaries? Um, you're God, oneness exist. It is true that if you believe that you're being attacked, that being is a part of you that's attacking you for reasons of awareness. Something needs to come up that require forgiveness and healing before it stops attack. It's like putting your inner child in timeout and expecting to leave it there and not feed it and not love it and leave it curled up in a little ball and a boundary in a corner. That inner child is eventually going to say, I'm hungry, I need love, I need sleep, I need attention, and I'm going to attack you until I get it. So that's a survival thing. Yes, I did say that. It is a really good song. I recently found it. It just flew across my Spotify on one of my stations and I downloaded it right away. I muted my microphone before coughing in your ear that time. Talking about boundaries and throat chakra stuff starts to clear live. Gotta love it. Sheesh. Next question. My grandmother died recently. I woke up the same exact time that she died. Can you tell me about this? Well, you're obviously connected. Hi, Alana. That's Alana Heavenly I'm talking about, guys. She's a powerful channel if you ever want to work with someone. She's right here in chat right now. Tiba listed the lyrics to my favorite song right now. Yeah. If you talk enough sense, you'll lose your mind. Yeah, because that's what the world thinks is sense and logic is actually insane. All the ways that we live in the matrix is actually rather insane. So it's easy to lose your real mind. What about cutting cords? Humanity has created all of these processes, and cord cutting does work most of the time if you are ready to do it, but sometimes you're just not. Um, I taught a class about that recently, but I can't remember which one it was. I think it was Emotional Alchemy 101 on Patreon. Mm, yeah, Heather, she said, I just learned that the throat is another important area for connecting with spirit. I have a strong energy slash spirit slash guide that I can feel at times in my throat. Yeah. Um, Guides will use belief systems such as chakras. Chakras are created by collective belief systems where enough people believe in energy wheels that keep you going that you create that in your matrix reality anyway. So guides will use those to talk to you. And if that is your strength, they will use that to talk to you. So I was not particularly wanting to listen. Like I would listen, but I would not honor my higher self and guides advice for about 10 years in my life. And during that time, I lost my voice. I gave this story, I believe, recently on Patreon in yesterday's Q&A. You were just watching Alana Heavenly on YouTube. Yeah, she's really good. I love her Kali Ma channeling. Just scrolling through your questions. Can you explain what symptoms someone would have if they're having a walk-in experience? Yeah, but spiritual awakening symptoms are pretty broad all across the board. So, forgetting long-term memory starts to get bad for a while, and then it starts to be recovered over time. Short-term memory is bad permanently. I have intensely bad short-term memory, at least from my perspective. I can't, people will be like, we had this conversation, we made this decision. And I'm like, can you tell me about it again? And then all it takes is a little reminder and those downloads come. But walk-ins operate on downloads of information. But we have to be clear. We have to remain clear in order to get clear information that's helpful to us and helpful to the collective. And information is changing all the time because this matrix system is changing all the time. Therefore, walk-in memories even can be, an intense thing. When a walk-in is fully integrated, they will begin to member appropriately. But I have met and even had close relationships with people who are going through walk-in experiences, and they lost their memory to the extent of having a complete different memory that would be negative instead of positive, and then saying that, my clear memory is messed up. So it gets really interesting with walk-ins. Um, and there's nothing you can do, if you're experiencing a relationship with a walk-in, if they're not integrated, if they're not operating in their oneness, basically speaking, they're going to be like, nope, this is my memory and this is what it is. So poor short-term memory, changing memory to suit their needs. I get that because walk-ins feel very unsafe a lot of times. Before they're integrated, these are the symptoms. Headaches, standard things that happen in all spiritual awakenings, like tinnitus and ringing of the ears and a fullness in one ear and then a pop and a ringing in the other that happens like one behind the other, as if an energy spear just went through your head like that. That's one of the major symptoms. Dizziness, vertigo, really bad digestive systems. But like, again, these digestive symptoms, that's all across the board. Like anybody can have that. But the memory is the biggest tip off, truly. And just waking up with extreme experiences and talents that you didn't have before, such as healing and, psychic, extra sensory experiences, paranormal experiences more so than ever before. I have had when I awakened from a walk-in experience, I suddenly knew how to paint. My voice changed completely after a walk-in experience once. And for those of you who know my musical background, I was trained as a coloratura soprano in opera. And then I had a walk-in experience and awakened with this deep, dark, fuzzy, like raspy Ella Fitzgerald jazz voice. It was really just really weird stuff, you know? Yeah. No, the voice eventually, once I integrated that walk-in experience, the voice came back to what it in its original fullness and depth and very high pitch again. Yeah. Is a walk-in accepted consciously by the other person? That depends upon the person. For me, I was well aware of it and said yes. But you know, I had my first awakening at age 5, so it was more of an awareness of what's happening. What are your feet trying to tell you? You need to tell me more information. That's really hard for me to dig into, but I can tell you that a lot of people have the feelings of hot, like hot feet, cold feet, sweating feet, pins and needles in the feet, feet falling asleep, one foot tingling and the other foot like just feeling normal. If your guides are tapping in via feet and hands and throat, feet, hands, throat, and top of the head. Those are 4 trigger points that your higher self will try to get your attention with. So that could just be your guides trying to get your attention, and that's your specific tapping point. That's where they tap you the most to get your attention. Can you speak more on partners with bipolar disorder and partners with drug addiction? Ooh, I got 10 minutes. 5 if I want to make it on time to my first mentorship session today. What do you want to know? Do you mean more like how do you be a partner with someone with bipolar? Or how do you be a partner with someone with drug addictions? Like what actually do you want to know about that? But going back to your question, Karen, about is a walk-in consciously accepted by the person? Um, I want to kind of elaborate on that because a walk-in is not a separate person. It's not a separate entity outside of you somewhere in the ether that goes, boom, you're in. But you create that dream. You create this concept that something's outside of you and then comes in, and then another piece of you walks out. You create that storyline. What actually happens is that an aspect of your human personality that you cannot contend with right now, that you cannot forgive, that you cannot work with, gets pushed aside for a bit. And you consider that a walk out. And then an aspect of you that can help with that walks in until you can deal with your own personality and fears. And then all the memories, all of the core beliefs that you were avoiding, they eventually come back once that walk in is integrated, but it is not a separate you. All of it's you. So in that case, it doesn't matter whether you consciously accept it or not, because it's all you. So one thing that really kind of catalyzes me a lot when I hear teachings in New Age communities talk about something as if it is separate. It's all you. Every single being that you're talking to that you think is separate from you, guardian angels, spirit guides, ancestors, higher self, lower self, subconscious, different portions of the subconscious, different layers of the subconscious, God, the devil, demons, you, all you. And these dreams that we all create collectively try to tell us that something's bad, therefore it has to be separate from us, and it's not us. It is you, and you. All you the whole time. Please wake up to that. If you don't hear anything today, please hear that. So a walk-in isn't coming in to help you. A walk-in is you being remembered in order to help you accept a part of you that you've cast aside and extricated and deemed as separate and unworthy. Why did Halal choose me? Because my deepest walk-in experience is connected with my dream in a time where I was Lilith. Lilith and Halal are divine masculine, divine feminine components, same beings, but dreaming that they are masculine and feminine, dreaming that they are something separate. So basically speaking, because of my dream of having a lifetime as a being known as Lilith, because of that, um, they work together. That's why. Big wow on that, someone says. Now everyone stops talking. Ah! Good. Um, Gianluca, that's kind of how do you perceive your higher self? Well, you can start by perceiving everything that you think and believe as higher self, unless it's fear. If there's a loving feeling, if there's an accepting feeling, if there's any variety or flavor of love in a thought or a feeling or a communication from higher self, that's higher self. And anything that you perceive as not, you need to work on and forgive until you perceive it as is. I can start there, but I do have a really powerful class. This is a series. It's called Soul Essence Channeling. Excuse me, Soul Essence Communication, talking to your higher self, and then part 2 of it is Soul Essence Communication, talking to the higher self of others. I gave very specific techniques on how to um, train yourself in that recognition. And I worked with people on screen, and they had that recognition live in the class. It was a really powerful series. It's 33% off right now. You get that code when you join Patreon. You get 33% off of any class, any session, any healing, anything on PamelaAralyn.com. So that's there. And that's a link through your explanation. But here at the end of our time together, I wouldn't have time to really go too deeply into that. Can ancestors help us from the other side? In your dream, there is another side. And you are dreaming that you need some help from someone that's separate from you because you're suffering. And in that case, you create the dream that they can, and it works. That's why shamans are available. That's why shamans are here on this earth. And yes, this dream works. How does that fit with me being gay? How does what fit with you being gay? I really am curious about what did I say? What did I say? I really want to know now. Can't close here. How do you set boundaries when it's the parent who's emotionally hurting you? Again, look at that process I have on my blog, Boundaries, the Final Frontier, and follow it step by step and honor it. Well, thank you, Laura. What does it mean if I'm O positive? What meaning do you choose to create? I'm O positive as well. I don't create any meaning out of it. There are a lot of people that choose meaning by RH negative types, and I have perceived in some of your dreaming collectively that RH negative is associated with non-sentient learning types, but it's not really that big of a deal. I've also seen a collective of RH negatives that are associated with the Mary Magdalene bloodline. I've seen a lot of dreams that many of you are believing about that. So the more power and meaning you place to something, the more it affects your life. What meaning do you choose to create from being O positive? What do I think about the law of one raw material? I don't know enough to I don't know. I really don't have time to dig into other people's material. Seth material, I love the energy of Seth, and I do channel Seth. Some of the information I can align with and some I can't, but I love Seth's energy. I really do. Some of the older channels that were out there that are no longer with us are incredible. I love Edgar Casey. I love Seth's material. Abraham Hicks, love it. I have a lot of favorites, but some I'm not familiar very much with Law of One right now to give you an opinion. Hmm. Well, oh, Lisa, you elaborated on the how does this relate to me being gay question. Did I choose to be separate? She said. Um, no, actually. People who are gay perceive more oneness because it's a matter of understanding that the same sex is the same. So you're not more attracted to someone that you would perceive as separate and opposite. You're attracted to sameness. So I view the gay community as being more in oneness than the heterosexual community. So just saying, it's something I'm perceiving. Take it or leave it. It's just something I've been perceiving for a long time. Okay, gotta go. It's 11 o'clock on the dot. Gotta get to a mentorship session. Again, for those of you who want to be my student, if you want to work on your spiritual development, realize your purpose, connect to your gifts, if you want a reading with me, if you want to work on emotional processing with me, if you want to order any of my classes that are on PamelaAaralyn.com, join Patreon. And you will get a 33% discount, but you have to be responsible for emailing us for that discount. So email us from your message center in Patreon, and my assistant will send that discount code to you personally. Okay. Thank you so much. I love doing this. As far as I know, I'm going to see you tomorrow at the same time between 10 and 11 Mountain Daylight Time. I've been trying to make a daily effect out of this. I have a mindful breathing class all about the branch of yoga called pranayama. And there are 3 pranic breathing techniques that we'll be discussing today for healing, cleansing, and release, and then empowerment. So I'll see you today, patrons, for that class at 4 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. And then we have a channeling of Shiva and Kali Ma. It is a dual channeling of myself, channeling Kali Ma, and of Annie Rios, a new and upcoming Christ conscious channel who's really powerfully accurate and so loving. You will love her. Sometimes I look at her as like me in another body. I love working with her, and I did a channeling with her just last week on Patreon. So I'm doing another channeling with her today, with us bringing in these 2 beings. Not today, excuse me. Today is the pranayama class, but tomorrow at 4 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time is the channeling of Shiva and Kali Ma. I almost said Halal and Lilith. It was right on the tip of my tongue. It was as if they're going to come through as well. This might be interesting. So I'll see you today at 4, and I'll see you tomorrow at 4. Thank you so much for giving me this platform, and for being here to take in my teachings and take what you like and what's resonating with you, and just leave the rest. That's how I feel about spiritual teachings everywhere. If you like it, keep listening. If you don't, you're welcome to keep scrolling. Have a great day. Sat Nam.